Alright, so welcome to our first episode of Top Deckers. I'm your host Gabriel. Today, I'm going to talk about a deck I used at a recent F&M. It's a mono white deck I named Healthy Living. It was a real fun deck to play, and it even placed me in the top 4. To top it all off, building this deck was very affordable, very easy to build, and, well, let's get to it. Okay, so first and foremost, this deck is primarily a white weenie deck. The great thing about it was its versatility in terms of how you choose to play it. You can either hit the ground running and play very fast and aggressive, or you can take your time and probably lose some life in the process. But with this deck, with a little bit of luck, you can build your life back up in virtually no time. So, all that being said, let's go ahead and begin, and let's start discussing the contents of this deck, and we will go ahead and piece this whole thing together one card at a time. Alright, so let's go ahead and start off with the 1-drops. The first one I'd like to talk about is the Hopeful Eidolon. It's from the Theros set. It's a 1/1 for 1. It's an enchantment creature. Now, enchantment is a very important key to this whole deck. Let's see here. It's got a bestow cost of 4 total. That's 3 colorless and 1 white. That makes this card rather versatile. I mean, giving another creature a 1/1 buff and lifelink for 4 is actually kind of a bargain, I would say. And considering that most of the cards in here are very fast, very cheap, very small, any little buff like that will help them very much. And even then, if the creature you enchanted with this card dies off, you still get your little 1/1 lifelink. So that's a good thing. I like that. The next 1-drop we have here is the Trained Caracal. It is from the Return to Ravnica block. Much like the Eidolon, it's 1/1 for 1, and it's got lifelink. However, it's a non-enchantment creature, which, you know, is it's not as versatile as the Eidolon, but once again, for the purposes of just getting a 1-drop out and swinging right away, you know, you want it to widen the gap between you and your opponent's life total. It's good for that purpose. And later on, you'll be playing cards that will buff your creatures up a bit. So, you know, for the purposes of speed and efficiency, he's right there. So. Alright, now on to the 2-drops. The first 2-drop we have here is Ajani's Pridemate. He is a 2/2 for 2. That's 1 colorless and 1 white. And he's got a pretty cool ability here. Whenever you gain life, you may place a +1/+1 counter on Ajani's Pridemate. Now, once again, you drop your first turn Eidolon or Caracal, and, you know, second turn comes up, you play this guy. You swing in for 1, and you're going to gain the life from that, chances are. And when you do, Ajani's Pridemate is going to become a 3/3. So then by the third turn, you're going to have a 3/3 attacker. And it's, you know, it just goes to show how aggressive this deck can get. Another 2-drop I have here is the Ordeal of Heliod. This is an enchant creature. It's an aura. Whenever enchant a creature attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on it, and then if it has 3 or more counters, you sacrifice it, and when you sacrifice this card, you gain 10 life. Once again, and going along with this life gain theme, it's quite a bargain, I would say. I mean, sure, you're going to spend a few turns waiting to get the creature up to 3 or more counters. But when you have cards like Ajani's Pridemate already racking up the counters, it's just going to be that much faster when it finally pops off. Not to mention that the gaining 10 life part right there, it comes in very handy with 1 or 2 of the other cards that we're going to talk about in this deck later. Now, finally, The other 2-drop I have is called Divine Favor. It's another aura. You enchant a creature with it. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. Enchanted creature also gets +1/+3. It's it's just another way to gain life. Plus, there's the added bonus of making a rather decent blocker out of your first turn 1-drop. So that's the odds of keeping your 1/1 guy out are increased that much more. So that is Divine Favor right there. And now we have the turn 3 drops. There's only 3 different kinds that I'm using in this particular deck. The first one here is the Lagonna-Band Elder. He is a 3/2 for 3. That's 2 colorless and a white. And he has this, I believe it's a triggered ability. When Lagonna-Band Elder enters the battlefield, if you control an enchantment, you gain 3 life. By this time, there should be... the chances of having an enchantment in play are fairly good between the Eidolon and a couple of the other enchantments, Divine Favor or Ordeal of Heliod. So by the time you play him, that's some more life you're going to gain right there. Another 3-drop we have here is the Archetype of Courage, or Archetype, however it's pronounced. I believe it's Archetype, excuse me. He's a 2/2 for 3. He costs 1 colorless and 2 white. And he's an enchantment creature. Once again, the enchantment type for this particular deck is rather important. And he is a human soldier also. And his ability is actually quite nifty and comes in very handy mid to late game. Creatures you control have first strike. As if that wasn't cool enough, he has this additional ability. Creatures your opponents control lose first strike and cannot have or gain first strike. Now, this makes your creatures that much more dangerous, whether it's attacking or blocking. Let's say they were to get Vigilance, they would be twice as dangerous right there. Vigilance and first strike, that makes for very effective attackers and blockers. Finally, for the 3-drops, we have Godsend. It's a legendary legendary artifact. And it's equipment, and it costs 3. Costs 1 colorless and 2 white. Now this thing is freaking awesome. I like this. It's equipped creature gets +3/+3. That makes any one of your guys that much more terrifying, that much bigger a threat. And as if that wasn't enough, there's this other ability here. Whenever equipped creature blocks or becomes blocked by 1 or more creatures, you may exile 1 of those creatures. So that's it. Before it even gets a chance to deal damage, that creature is exiled. All it has to do is be declared a blocker. So that helps with the control aspect of the deck, keeping control of the board. Not that this deck is really meant to control the board. It's just meant for you to gain a lot of life, to wait out any threats your opponent might have while you set yourself up on your side. Also, and this is a real kicker here, the last ability is opponents can't cast cards with the same name as the cards exiled with Godsend. So if they're packing 4 of any one particular threat and you go in and they block with it, you could exile it, and that exiled card can no longer be cast for the rest of the game, which I think is pretty awesome. That is really good. And the equip cost is 3. So, with all the cheap, fast creatures you have in this deck, you play this card, and as soon as turn 4, you could have this equipped to 1 of your creatures and just start swinging away with it. Okay, so by the time you hit round 4, if all goes well, you should be comfortably ahead of your opponent's life total. And you should at least have 2 or 3 creatures out. The turn 4 drops in this deck, there's really not that many. They're few and far in between, but they do pack a life-gaining punch. And they might be your win conditions as well, depending on how things play out. The first 4 drop we have here is the, where is he? I have him here. There we go. Heliod, God of the Sun. Legendary enchantment creature. He's a god. 5/6 for 4. Indestructible. You know, we all know the gods of the Theros block. You know. Let's see. As long as your devotion to white is less than 5, he isn't a creature. This deck has enough permanence in here to where that shouldn't be a problem. Of course, your opponents are going to be trying to take down your creatures, but there are things in this deck that I've put in here to help protect them and augment their defense, and we'll talk more about those in a bit. But here is one of the abilities I was talking about before. Other creatures you control have vigilance. Now, you pair that up with First Strike, and that makes your creatures a very formidable force right there. I mean, being able to attack with First Strike, gaining life, not having to tap, makes them lethal blockers in the process. In addition to that, he has this ability here. You pay 4, 2 white, 2 colorless. You can put a 2/1 white cleric enchantment creature token onto the battlefield. Pretty nifty, I'd say. 2/1 cleric for 4. You can play it as an instant, play it at the end of your opponent's turn. Just start racking up the creatures. In addition to that, they're also enchantments. I know I keep saying that enchantments are a big part of this deck, and we're going to talk about that in a bit. But yeah, so that's Heliod right there. Another 4 drop I have here is called Sunbond, and this is another aura, and you enchant a creature with it. And it costs 3 colorless and 1 white. This card can get really fun if things go your way in any particular game you're playing. The ability reads as enchanted creature has, whenever you gain life, put that many +1/+1 counters on this creature. So think about that. You have creatures with Lifelink. Every time they deal damage, they get counters. Every time you play Divine Favor, this card is on one of your creatures. It gains counters. Think about attacking with Ordeal of Heliod, and it pops. You gain 10 life. That's 10 counters on one creature. I played one game and I was able to make a 21/24 Eidolon. It was pretty fun. I liked it. So, once again, Sunbond. It's a turn 4 drop right there. Pretty handy, I would say. Okay, so these next cards I'm going to talk about, they don't exactly fit in the whole life-getting theme of this deck, but they do, if anything, augment the life-gaining cards in terms of protecting them, keeping them on the board, maybe making them a little tougher, just, you know, keeping them out there. One of the first cards I have here is Brave the Elements. It's from M14. It's an instant, costs 1 white. And its ability reads, choose a color. White creatures you control gain protection from that chosen color until end of turn. Now, being that this is a white weenie deck, it's kind of hard to see why you wouldn't play this. I mean, especially being that the creatures you're playing are small and flimsy. It takes them a while for them to get bigger and meaner and pose a bigger threat, you know, but this card will help keep them out long enough for that. Another card we have here is God's Willing, another card from the Theros block. Another instant for mana cost of 1. And target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. You also get to scry 1 with this card. Now, one of the weaknesses that this deck has, besides the easily killable creatures, is the lack of card draw and deck manipulation. Now, in theory, that's what the life-gaining aspect is for. At least that's the way I see it. It's meant to to buy you some time to draw into the good stuff, since white, is more or less notorious for being lax in card drawing. At least with the Scry 1, you get some kind of help there with it. Now that being said, sometimes you may go against an even more faster, you may go up against a faster, more aggressive deck. The answer that I came up with for this would be Oppressive Rays. And this is from the Journey to Nyx set, or Journey into Nyx. And it's another aura, costs 1 white, you enchant a creature. And I think this card, personally, I think it's very underrated. Enchanted creature can't attack or block unless its controller pays 3. Now, once you get into the mid-game and into the late game, this card is going to be virtually useless. I get that, but still, I think this card buys you some time to get your life-gaining engine going. In addition to that, activated abilities of enchanted creature cost 3 more to activate. For example, I was up against a mono-green deck, and it had mana ramp, which went up against the likes of the I forget the name of the elf, but the one drop elf that makes mana. I knew where that deck was going, so I was able to play Oppressive Rays on it, and the idea of paying 3 mana to tap the elf for 1 mana just pretty much shut him down, and that helped buy me some time. So I think this card, like I said, it's a little underrated, but it's like I see its potential, and it especially helps with the next card I'm going to talk about here. And this card here. It's like Lebowski's rug. It really ties everything together, and it's Ethereal Armor, and it's an aura, and it costs 1, and it's a real powerhouse. It's first, well, you enchant a creature with it, and enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control, and has first strike. So you think about it. You play a turn 1 Eidolon, turn 2 you cast Ethereal Armor on it. You have a turn 2 3/3 first strike lifelink. You can cast Oppressive Rays on your opponent's creature, and it's an enchantment you control, which further buffs the Ethereal Armor. So by turn 2, you could have a 4/4 lifelink first strike. Okay, the combinations go on like this. Turn 3, you have your Lagonna-Band, your Lagonna-Band Elder, or your Archetype of Courage. They all feed off each other, and I saw a really awesome synergy with this deck. And like I said, I played it last week, and it got me top 4, which I was not expecting. I just went to go play, and it turned out this deck did better than I thought, which is really sad because the Return to Ravaging Block will be cycling out of Standard in the next couple of weeks. So I really didn't get to play this deck as much as I would have liked to. That being said, I probably could mod it a bit for Modern. I'll need to start looking into it, but that's another topic for another show. Once again, that's our first show here. Thank you all very much for listening. I hope you all enjoyed our first episode. Please feel free to leave us feedback. If there's anything in particular you'd like to hear discussed on the show, just let us know in the comments. Please subscribe to the page. I'm hoping you found our episode here entertaining, maybe a little informative. Hopefully, maybe it inspired some deck ideas for you to try out. Let's see here. Keep a lookout. We're gonna have future episodes. I'm hoping as we go along, we're gonna refine our series a bit, and maybe have some guests, other Magic players, shop owners. Once again, also I'm going to go ahead and put up the complete deck list. So if you want to go ahead and give this, build it and give it a shot, you're more than welcome to. In the meantime, thank you all so much again. I hope you all enjoyed it, and see you next time.